There you go.
What is up, everybody? As you know, we like to start every show off by saying thank you to all those companies who make this show possible. First and foremost, we're going to do today our friends over at TruTech Tools. All that money you've been banking all summer, you're out there trying to get some new gear, you're trying to have the new flashy gauges or the scale. Guys, go check out TruTech Tools. You know, a sign of a true technician is the quality of their tools and their ability to use them. Beyond owning the best test equipment, they want you to know how, when, and where to use it. They believe a trained user makes a better customer, and a trained employee is more confident and valuable to their employer. They're looking to serve the needs to offer the best testing equipment available for contractors and technicians working in the HVACR industry, building and home performance, facilities and industrial, energy auditing, and home inspectors. Guys, TruTech Tools is owned by some awesome people, Mr. Bill Spohn, Mr. Eric Preston. They really have one of the widest selections of HVAC tools that there is, and they're also just amazing people. And to make this even better, if you use the discount code Uncensored at checkout, you can save 8% on your order. Uncensored. If you can't spell Uncensored, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, go to TruTech Tools, put in discount code Uncensored, and get yourself whatever you need. Treat yourself for all that hard work you put in this summer. All right. Next, and I'm going to say last but not least, is going to be our friends over at Yellow Jacket. Guys, more than 70 years ago, Jack Ritchie set a goal for Ritchie Engineering to become the standard by which all HVAC hoses were measured. In the last 7 decades, the Yellow Jacket brand has not only become the standard in hoses, pools, refrigeration gauges, manifolds, HVAC vacuum pumps, and refrigerant recovery machines, it's become legendary. How have they done that? Through an unwavering commitment to excellence. It's the single most important attribute in the longevity of the company. While other companies sold out, sent work overseas, and lessened quality, the relentlessness commitment of their people has led to 70 years of best-in-class products, first-class customer service, and innovations that make the contractor's job easier worldwide. That's us. So let's join Yellow Jacket in the next 70 years as they commit to changing the standard once again. Guys, remember, 70 years of expertise built into every tool. Yellow Jacket. On to the show.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States, and thank you to all of our global listeners.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. If you're trying to take your HVAC game to the next level, then buckle your seatbelt, crank up the volume, and try not to be offended, because you're listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast with Gil Cavey and Kelley McKay. Now, here's Gil and Kelley.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. I'm your host, Gil Cavey Jr., sitting alongside my buddy, old pal, Mr. Kelley, HVAC millionaire McKay. And I'll just stop there. What's up, buddy?
That's enough. Doing good, man. I'm excited tonight because I know all you business owners out there, you better get a pen and pad ready because you're going to want to take some notes. Tonight we have the president, CEO of the Big Picture Consulting Company. And what do? They do everything and anything necessary to maximize company compliance, maximize your company culture, and ultimately create business success. They give employers the tools, support, and advice necessary for them to make qualified business decisions that accounts for the big picture and ensure their business is prepared for whatever compliance-related situation it may face. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ian Schotanus.
There you go.
Schotanus. I knew I'd butcher that. I'm sorry.
Pressure got to
Everybody
him.
does.
Anyway.
That's why I just go by the HR guy.
Gotcha.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. I'm glad, especially we talked about off air that we hadn't really had a relationship yet. And it was like, oh, hey, you want to be on the podcast? So I really appreciate you being here because me and Kelley both think what you do is tremendously valuable to owners out there. So I guess we'll just kind of get right into this. I guess let people know who you are, what you do, and I guess how you got into it a little bit.
So a little over a decade ago, I found myself on the wrong side of the HR table and getting terminated from a job. And I decided that I never wanted to be in that type of position again. So opportunity presented itself to join a firm that was trying to build out a HR system for contractors. And both my wife and I ended up working side by side for years, developing our knowledge base of the industry, working with people all over the country, and just becoming the experts on what contractors need to protect themselves from the Department of Labor, including OSHA, wage and hour, opportunistic lawyers, disgruntled employees, and so on. Because this is just an area that we found is so underserved and underrepresented in the trades. So, we do what we can to help. And I come at HR from a more technically minded position myself. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a businessman just like the rest of you. And, I served in the U.S. Navy, got out 4 months before 9/11. And, I worked in advanced electronics. I did the maintenance on the 3 largest AC units on the ship, one of them belonging to the captain. And then I ended up working for Best Buy and Geek Squad, both sales and as technician. And I've kind of done a lot of different things. So, everything from the ground up, from circuit boards up to business management.
That's excellent. Yeah.
That's the Swiss cool. Army knife.
So now you,
and for all you dipshits out there, a decade is 10 years. Sorry, go ahead.
So now, basically, like I read in the intro, you're helping businesses get compliant. That's one of the first things. But I know you also do other things such as restructuring their pay. I guess the way that they pay their employees. Yep. I know that's a big part of your service. I'm assuming.
It's one of the cornerstone services that we provide. Right up there with writing a custom employee handbook and getting a fully functional safety program for you guys. The compensation plans. So many people are running on performance pay, but a solid 85+% of companies that are using spiffs, performance bonuses, commissions, task pay are not doing it legally. They're not paying on overtime correctly, which just leaves them, just waiting for somebody to come knocking, and end up huge fines are associated with that.
Yeah, that's no bueno. Well, and I kind of have a 2-part question here. When we talked off air, and it made perfect sense that a lot of business owners were technicians, so we have that tech in us. We're not business owners. We didn't go to college. We kind of learn as we go, and we don't understand the importance of some of these things. Educate some of these people out here that don't know something as simple as having a company handbook and safety protocol, like how important that is to have, because I didn't know until recently, that's a big deal.
Absolutely. It's absolutely critical because you can't build a building on a foundation of sand. So the employee handbook and the safety manual are actually 2 of the cornerstone pieces of any business, because it controls the expectations of employees, what they expect of management, and what management is expecting of employees that they are going to be held accountable to. So that's why, I start at the foundation and I go beyond it, because once you have that employee handbook in place and you have the basis of that relationship, which can change over time, you can make changes. It should be a living document, but whatever form it's in, that is what everybody is being held accountable to. And you have to hold them accountable. You can't be one of the guys. That's something that's very common throughout the industry. And, I happily play the boogeyman in the corner going, yeah, he says we got to do it this way. I don't want to do it, but I gotta, and make me the bad guy. That's perfectly fine. If that's how I'm best of service, then, that's what I do.
Yeah. I mean, we learned something even as stupid as like the disciplinary stuff. Like we would print it on this special paper, print it out. They'd have to sign it, date it. And then, one of the big three would sign it, myself, the owner, the office manager would sign it, and that would go in their file because you have proof. That way, if something ever happened, it was all documented. And not saying that we were doing it perfect at my last company, but
here's a bomb for you. Even verbal warnings should be documented on the management side. Track those conversations, both positive and negative. I know companies that the managers have a spiral notebook for each employee that they just log conversations that they have so that when it comes time for performance review, or if it's a disciplinary action, a serious, violation, they can look back on the record and you have something that's quantifiable, something that's solid. It's not subjective at all. And you can actually hold to the letter and what's the right thing to do for that person.
So would an example of a positive notation for a person, for example, be like maybe, October 4th, John sold 3 systems and got 2 5-star reviews or something like that. Even something as little as that, just for a reminder of yourself of kind of their performance.
The review systems that most of you guys are using, that's always a good record and should be broken down by employee, but even internally. So, a technician partners up with one of the CSRs to evaluate a system or go through a process or help interdepartment understanding. If they take the initiative and do that, they should be recognized for that because it's bringing the team together.
Gotcha.
And that's the sort of thing that isn't going to be tracked anywhere else. You have to identify it. You have to be watching from the high up. Yep.
Tracked right here. I literally, when I first came here, I have a folder in here marked with every single employee, and I will literally just slide little notes in there for everyone. Like today just happened to be I had one of the guys go out to my neighbor's son and to a friend that I grew up with, and both of them left reviews, and they called me and they were like, Gil, like, I'm not just saying this because the guy works for you. Like, he blew me away. Like, he was very knowledgeable. He knew what he was doing. He explained everything. Like you really got a good guy, man. Like, I could not be happier. And we have a group text, and I always give them attaboys. Well, actually, I call them fuck yes. Probably not the best for HR. But yeah, I take that and I write that down and I put it all, and I have everything in here, because I want to have all that stuff when it goes for race time. I want to pull this folder out and be like, yeah, man, like, I remember all this, like, like, yeah, I remember that time I had to write you up for doing this, but look at all this good stuff that happened, man. Like, this is, you know what I mean? So, I've always been kind of organized on that.
And if your handbook is written up correctly, you have the freedom to take the positives and negatives and balance it out case by case. A lot of template, if you're running off of a handbook that came off the wizard from ADP or Paychex or your work comp carrier or something like that, it's almost guaranteed to have what's called a progressive disciplinary policy laid in there, where first offense is a verbal, second offense is a written, third offense is final, and then you're terminated. If you have that sort of thing hard-lined in your employee handbook, your hands are tied. If you try to skip steps, you could get knocked in court. If you let it go on too far, you can invalidate your entire employee handbook because it's worthless if you're not actually following the policies. Recently, I posted in across a lot of the groups don't have a policy that you're not ultimately willing to fire somebody over. If you're not going to fire somebody over time clock issues, let them show up when they're going to show up, because that's all it's worth if you're not going to hold people accountable to it. And ultimately, if they refuse to get with the program as you're going through these steps and having these conversations, the ultimate way to hold them accountable is kick their butts out the door. And that's what's got to happen, and doesn't happen often enough. Everybody's become very entitled because tech shortages, it's hard to find people, and the employers are held hostage.
Oh, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
Totally.
Me and Kelley did a podcast about that you feel held hostage by your employees because you want to do that, but it's like the revenue this guy brings in that it's like, what do I do? Do I kick this guy to the curb? And I think that's a dilemma that a lot of guys are coming to, but we need to do the right thing because we're kind of setting the standard the wrong way.
Yeah. Very, very common problem. And again, that's where I come in as the independent third party who's emotionally detached. I don't have that friendship with the team. I take the information that is available. I ask my follow-up questions to make sure as many angles as possible have been, looked at, and say, this is the risk. But every consultation comes with the best effort that I can make to give you everything you need to make a qualified business decision and give you the peace of mind that goes with it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, like I said, just like the dumb stuff, the documentation, and I'm always so big on, and I've always said this about procedures and about systems and processes. Like, it's something dumb as doing a maintenance, and I want it all the same way because we kind of want to be like McDonald's. No matter what tech comes out, you do the same thing. Well, we got to have these same kind of systems and processes on the HR and in the back end, or the rest of that stuff is all for nothing. If God forbid something was to happen, you finally grow, but you have nothing for like workman's comp, or no way if somebody gets hurt or wrecks a truck, gets into an accident, it's their fault. I know it's like the first 48 hours is like the worst for a commercial. Like, like something as small can take everything that you've worked so hard for and just flush it right down the toilet.
And unfortunately, as an employer, as a business owner, you just don't know where that's going to come from. Sometimes you don't know who the toxic employee on your team is until it's too late. But if you have the systems and you're following the procedures and you're following the policies that you've established, and giving everybody the chance, if somebody has a problem with a policy or has something to question about it, they should feel empowered to ask about it, because nobody's perfect. There's always room for improvement. And if that's the direction to keep the team happy and working as a team, it should be, changes to policy can be considered. But it's having that open mind is important.
Well, what about now? Like with COVID, like, do you need people to sign something like saying if they go out and work and get COVID that like they can't sue you? Or say one employee has it and works with another employee and they're like, oh, well, they made me work with Jimmy and now I got COVID and now my family's sick. Like,
as essential services, there's very little liability on that as long as you are using, I use the term good faith effort or most reasonable efforts a lot, because that's what a lot of the laws say. But as long as you're making the good faith effort to protect the health and safety of your employees and your customers, you're fine. There's not officially any liability protection yet, and that's part of the political drama that's playing out between the left and right in Congress and the president. But that's going to get settled. There's not going to be a liability because there's no way to actually tell where somebody got COVID from. That's just a functional. Right. There's no way to really tell. They're trying all these contact tracings and all of that. It's a placebo. It's a Band-Aid. It's to give the impression of security. There's no functional value there because not everybody's doing it, and it's a virus that you can't see. So you don't know when it comes from one person to the next. President Trump got COVID. Vice President who's been by his side, regularly hasn't gotten it. No idea.
Russia did
All
it.
Russia.
Yeah. God damn. Russia.
I mean, as the HR guy, I have no position on this whatsoever.
I know when we first started talking before we started recording tonight, I know right away, like I need your services, and there's a lot of companies out there that are going to need your services. So I hope that your phone explodes like by the end of this podcast. But but somebody who, I guess my question is like, you have a way to get us started so we understand, so we can have a picture of where we even start, because there's a lot of stuff that we've already talked about and we've only just begun. And I can tell you, I need a lot of these things. So where do I start?
Just like when you send a technician out for a service call, they got to look around. They got to look around the systems. They got to look in the spaces. They got to go into the attic or into the crawl space and shine that light around to see what they're actually dealing with. I do the exact same thing. The very first conversation that we have after somebody signs up for my services, we do what I call a company compliance review. And we, speak for about an hour to go through the broad strokes of where you're at in compliance. So identifying, do you have a safety program in place? How old is your employee handbook? Is it collecting dust in the corner? Was it made specifically for you, or was it provided by Dr. Google? Things like that. What's your onboarding process look like? What are some of the details about your compensation plans? And I identify areas that we need to follow up and work on. And I lay out the projects that, ultimately it's on, the employer, the business owner, to prioritize what do they want to work on first. So really, as much or as little of our resources as you need, we provide it. We get the ball rolling on a lot of fronts. And but the biggest value of my service, especially the retainer account, is being able to call when your employee does something ridiculous. That's my, that's what I spend most of my time doing, is fielding calls about my employee just did this, or dealing with COVID. There's lots of variables dealing with COVID that's popping up, now that school's back in session. So how do you deal with it if, kids get quarantined or they have to care for their children? What do they have access to? There's the laws that were passed back in the spring. Lots of different factors. But, writing up the employee handbook, overhauling your compensation plan. I also developed my own incentive-based compensation plan to be 100% compliant anywhere in the country, to incentivize both the individual and the teams. So I'm doing demonstrations, I'm providing demonstrations on that. And it's really just whatever you would use an on-site certified HR professional for, I do. Anything that I need to do to give you peace of mind.
And it's amazing. And like you said before, let these people know that you deal with one-man shops all the way up to 100+ employees. So don't think you're either too small or too big for Ian Services, because he does all of them and in the middle.
Absolutely. Every company has its unique challenges, and they have different resources. Some of the, a lot of the business owners, typically it's the male of the partnership that, whether they're the owner or technically vice president or something like that, they're the ex-technician, but the significant other may have the accounting background or some office management background and things like that, maybe even HR. But putting it into practice from an employer standpoint is always difficult. So I find out what resources you have available to you, and find the best way to make myself useful, even if it's just a sounding board. I have some of my clients just call me up, once a week, once every other week, just to bounce different ideas off me. They may be perfectly on track with what I would advise, and they're considering everything, but just getting a second set of eyes that's not biased towards whatever is going on site is invaluable. Somebody that you can trust.
Yeah, I like that. The fact that, you work for the ownership and you're not involved in the individuals. So you're going to tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear, because, for one, you've already been paid technically. And it's like, hey, you paid me for a reason. Like, you should be doing this. Like, this is how you need to handle this. And if they choose not to do it, then that's on them. You gave them the proper advice and guided them in the right direction.
And if they ultimately disagree with me or they go a different direction, that's fine. That your business decision. Okay. This is the new direction that these variables are moving in. And sometimes it turns around and I told you so. I say it nicer than that, of course, but other times their decision works out fine because everything is risk management. There is very few hardline. This is the only way you can do this successfully when you're dealing with HR, because everything with HR involves people, and people are incredibly varied and incredibly random. So people can surprise you. Redemption stories abound.
Yeah. So, man. So, speaking of people, I know that's one of the main things that you guys focus on is, maximizing the compliance and the culture. So what are some ways that you would be able to help my company increase my company culture?
So one of the biggest factors that I see that's lacking in a lot of HVAC companies or, trades is honest and meaningful communication between management and employees. Actually getting input from employees, even if you don't take suggestions, you don't ultimately implement the suggestions from the team, but making them part of the process. That just bringing them into some of those wheels and generating ideas, talking through things. One, can lead to better decision making, but two, it immediately and instinctively increases employee engagement. They feel part of the ownership of the company, of their work environment. And that's something that keeps them loyal to you versus looking for greener grass. And, again, with with tech shortages and things like that going on, everybody's looking for good people. So find ways to redeem, people that aren't currently up to your standards, but don't be afraid to identify and cut away any toxic employees. If you find people are working against you, and this is where communication helps you identify those. If you can tell, that's the great thing about contractors. We don't blow smoke. We're very honest to a fault. We're blunt, uncensored.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Gil.
What are you fucking talking about, Kelley?
So, I can tell you, we've through the years, I've owned my company since 2008. And there's, we go through times where it's smooth sailing, everybody's getting along and things are cheery and great and the momentum's there. But we have our trials and tribulations or our valleys that we hit sometimes where there's some waves going I'm certain everybody deals with this, but I know one of the things we talked about before we got started was just like accountability. Because I know this is something that I struggle with and we struggle with in our company, like because of the shortage of technicians. And even though I'm not, I personally am not not that I don't like and love all of my guys that work with me, but I've tried to start separating that, so for about the last year, I've tried to make some separation there because there was a few of them that I was, really close with. And just felt like I needed some separation because the lines are getting blurred there a little bit on the, the boss and employee, which I'm sure a lot of you guys out there listening deal with the same thing. So, how would you help me go about the accountability issue? Like me and you sit down and I say, Ian, this is what I really want. I want this stuff to happen. How do I make this happen, without everybody quitting and everybody getting mad?
That's always the risk. And, you selling the change is what's going to make that difference during those conversations. It's changing the dynamic of employer-employee, adding accountability. You get what you tolerate. And if you're going to fix that, employees are under that same dynamic. You get what you tolerate. So if they're going to tolerate accountability, then their behavior will change accordingly. And then they're no longer a problem. If they don't tolerate it, they're going to de-hire themselves. It'll be the easiest thing for you to execute. But it starts with you just kind of stepping up and drawing that line and holding to it. And if that means getting on the phone with me, every couple of days, I just spent a week in Georgia with one of my clients, Service First Pros.
I saw Josh Meacham. I met Josh.
And, he was calling me every day for a week or two before, because just things kept on popping up before I got out there. Man, I'm going to burn through it. I'm going to burn through all my time. No, this is all quick shots. This is all simple stuff. You just need to breathe, have those conversations. And so many business owners are afraid of the confrontation. They don't want the fight because they put themselves in the employee's shoes and have the conversation in their head all by themselves. So they're going in with a feeling of dread. You got to scratch that nonsense. Everybody in your company is an adult. Even if they're a minor, they're still playing in an adult game. And they need to be treated as adults because that's what it's for. That's what the job is exercising adulting. So, people complain about millennials and, things like that. It's a mindset that is seen throughout the ages. There are some people that will not conform to the way you want to run your business, your company culture, your vision, and how you're going to go about executing it. If they can't get on board, it's better for them to go somewhere else where they can be happier and more productive. And you can be happier and more productive. Even if you lose guys, you scale accordingly. And if you've got your systems and processes, which other consultants are much better than I am with, you have the operations systems and processes dialed in, and your numbers and stuff. Scaling, if you got to scale down for a while and then regrow on a stronger base, it's gold. That's what you should do. But you cannot be held hostage in your own company.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Well, I mean, I hate to backtrack a little bit, but I know a lot of things I see that, is something so important, like, and you don't got to go into detail over this, but as simple as like the onboarding process, like hiring somebody and getting the proper forms. Like most people, it's like just like a W-9 and, get the 2 tax forms and woohoo, we're done. But I've heard that really it should be it's so much more than that. And I'll be honest, I know that we don't do that. Like when I came here and filled stuff out, I'm like, oh, okay, this is it. So it, yeah, I know that should be a process that's a lot of places are not doing correctly.
And there are a lot of different, and completely valid philosophies with onboarding. Some people do a much more controlled kind of foundational buildup in-house, in the shop, doing some hands-on training in the shop, going through whatever the operations software, whether it's house call or service time or whoever. Spending time on that, introducing them to the team, making sure they're familiar and set up with all the email accounts and time clock features, especially things like that. Inventory, making sure uniforms are all proper. Safety is something that you're supposed to cover when somebody comes in new. You're supposed to hit a lot of the annually required topics to make sure they're up to speed on that, because you can't rely on what the last Yahoo they were working for was doing, unless they were working with me already, and then they're probably all up to snuff on training. But the onboarding process can be as little as just filling out the documents, financial responsibility, whatever training agreements, if you're going to build those out, which we can also help with, because you want to protect your investments. And we'll talk about the pluses and minuses of that for your specific situation. There's state required documents. California has a library that you have to give. You have to give a new hire information about the unemployment process. I shit you not.
Yeah.
That's because everything causes cancer in California, but not anywhere else.
It's nuts. And you have to have the posters up and all that stuff. But then there's the other philosophy. You rock through the paperwork, you get the bare minimum paperwork, you give them a copy of the employee handbook, you tell them where the safety manual is, and then you partner them up with somebody in the field and focus on more of an on-the-job training and onboarding as the primary. Now, if that's what you guys do and that's what your systems can support, great. Let's introduce some things to add accountability to those people that are responsible for training the new hires. Debrief the new hires when they're done in the field for the first day. Have them walk through what they learned. Get that immediate retention and double check the quality of the training that they're getting from your other guys. And document it,
right?
Especially if you see things. Doing ride-alongs. Not just with new hires, but just doing ride-alongs in general. It's something that I've seen a lot of companies moving away from. But when you're dealing with employees in the field, unsupervised, you have to spot check it, and that's one of your best defenses, even in a worst case scenario. If you can show a pattern of, I do regularly go out and check. I can't check every single person. That's an unreasonable expectation. But if you're going out there, once a week, you do one call a week with somebody and you're rotating through the guys, you're protected on so many fronts. But you're also verifying that safety policies are being followed, sales policies and procedures are being followed, customers are being taken care of. And depending on the compensation plan, whoever's lucky enough to have you riding with them gets the benefit of an extra pair of hands to get their jobs done quicker or help improve the sale, which goes directly into their pocket. So you can use it as a positive, outcome too.
I just did that. The fact that I was new coming over here, I did it for a couple of different reasons. One, to get to know these guys on a personal level, just me and them. Also to kind of crush some objections they have about, not offering this, offering that. I was able to show them what I do, how I do it, and that it's all honest. We're not offering customers something they don't need. And I did that, increase the guys' tickets, whatever revenue we made. I'm like, that's all your commissions you make that day. We had, tips. One guy handed us both like $20 and I handed it to the technician. I'm like, this is your money, man, not mine. So I do like the old fashioned, ride along stuff. And it's something that I want to try to incorporate. Like, hey, I'm going to be out here watching what you're doing. And, for one, trying to help you, the processes and the sales and stuff that I'm trying to implement. I want to make sure you're using it, you're doing it. Plus they know, hey, Gills, and I'm going to do it like, Monday. It's going to be, hey, I'm going with so-and-so I'm coming with you on Tuesday. So it's not like, let me try to sharpen, clean this shit up, before, just something little about like, we do like checking the vans, making sure vans are clean, but we make like a bonus thing out of it, give gift cards.
One of the best systems on that. I love different things and different takes on the clean van. Have a checklist of points that you're checking on the van inspection, and during a team meeting, pull out a stack of ones while we're still allowed to do cash, but bring out like $20 in ones and say, this is yours. We're going to go look at your van and you're going to pay me $1 for each hit on this checklist. So they just see that money, you pick it random, say, you're the lucky winner. You got $20. Now let's see if you get to keep it.
Yeah. That way they physically have to feel the pain of giving it away.
If you just taken the 5 seconds to throw away that trash, you shouldn't have McDonald's in the front seat. You shouldn't, your steering wheel shouldn't be covered in grease. The things like that. Your fire extinguisher shouldn't be rolling around in the back of the truck. Little things.
Right.
Yeah. Stuff on the dash gets me. Like, I don't want to be like that old guy that was 90 years old that had every part in his truck was on the dashboard. Like, especially now, like, we invest all this money in all these fancy vans. The least you can do is take care of it. Like, I make them like they have to wash it once a month. That's part of the thing. Like, whether you pay for it or you do it yourself, whatever, I don't care. But, that thing needs to be cleaned at least once a month. And I don't think that's a lot to ask for. So.
I mean, if they're there getting a, now I don't know what car washing, things the vans can go through, but, just make it part of the fuel up process, one periodically.
Yeah. That's the only thing about some of these, like with the ladder rack and some of the taller Dodge vans we use, they can't fit in a lot of these car washes.
It's got to be by hand or in the tall
Find
stall.
a local high school.
Yeah. But there is ways. Some of those ones that you can pull in yourself, with the little squirty thing, and there's ways to do it. But it also just takes pride. I know when I was a technician, like I always wanted to have the cleanest van. Like I was just OCD. My van was always organized. So at least the place I was before, when I got into the position I did, those guys knew better because they knew what I did as a technician. Here, I'm coming over saying what I did. They never actually saw it. So that's another thing that ride-alongs help. I'm not asking you to do anything that I don't do myself, and I get to do it, show them, like, shit, man, this is pretty good.
For mechanically minded individuals, seeing is believing. Anything else is just, hot air from the top down. But if you actually see it in action, that's what cements that trust. That's what keeps them as one of your guys, as opposed to your next competitor. Because if you're talking it but not walking it, they're going to walk on you and show you how it's done.
What if you're the owner and you come in every single day and you're 75 years old and you have bad knees, you can't go physically out in the field to show the guys how it's done? Is it okay to just have like the sales service manager or your top service guy ride with somebody?
You delegate.
Okay.
You pass on those duties that, especially if you've served your time, just the fact that you're in the industry at 75 years old, that comes with the gravitas of, having that experience, and it's just a given. There's no doubt. But when you're looking at, like the two of you guys, you need to actually walk the talk. I mean, same here. I mean,
yeah. I just had a talk with Gil a couple of weeks ago because I'm to the point where, I know I need to do ride-alongs. I just don't want to. I have 22 years in the field. I don't want to go back in the field. I don't care if it's for, and maybe I'm just being a baby. I'm just seriously, I'm tired of the field work. I did it for so long. I worked so many late nights, so many long hours, so many hot roofs, so many hot attics, so many crawl spaces. Like, I don't want it anymore, period. Like, so we do spend a great deal amount of time training. We role play. I'll happy to role play. Like, let's run a real service call in front of everybody right now. Like, I'll happily do that.
If your
I'm
team
just
is
not
large
looking
enough,
forward to ride-alongs. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, and that's completely understandable. And if it's going to be a negative experience for you, don't do it. It's not worth your time. Now,
if they're stuck on something and I need to come out, I was in a crawl space till 8:00 2 nights ago. I'm cool with that. But it's not like I'm not willing to do that stuff. It's just for ride-alongs, just for the sake of ride-alongs, when we've spent literally, a ton of time training on this.
Kelley has given his guys every tool known to man as far as trainings and different sales programs. So it's kind of like, the tool bag's full. You gotta start using the tool. So that's kind of what his frustration is. And
at the same time, you have to make sure that they are using the tools. You can't just count on the results coming in. You do actually have to verify. And again, that's what protects you, in a worst case scenario when there's an accident. Do you have the history of checking up on it, or do you have that system in place? But if that's not you, delegate it. Just, and then you maybe follow up with people that they are evaluating periodically, just to kind of corroborate stories.
He's going to let me come out and do ride-alongs.
It's always checking.
I'm going to go out to Kansas.
No, honestly, I actually am probably next week or the week after, I am going to do some ride-alongs, but I'm not happy about it. Like, I'm just not happy about it because of the extensive training that we've been through. But, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But I don't have to like it,
You like dealing with corporate taxes? Nope. You got to do it.
Yeah. Nope. Exactly.
If somebody doesn't like selling a maintenance plan
every day. So
too bad. That's part of your job. That's what you signed up for. Don't like it? Go find a check in the truck to work for.
And Lord knows there's a lot of them.
Ton of Chiefs, not enough Indians, man. I know that's a bad way to put it, but it's true. Everybody, like we talked at the beginning, like, there's so many guys that are technicians, great technicians. That's what I was. That's what Gil was or is. That's what we are. I'll always be a technician at heart, but I decided, okay, I'm going to go. I could do this. I could do this better. Like, look at my boss. She's taking 3-day weekends all the time, and she's got a cabin out by the lake, and I want a cabin out by the lake. And look at all this money that I bring in for her. And then, it's totally. So when I first came into the business, that's how I operated. I was the technician, and it just doesn't work. Like, you will be stuck, and like, you cannot grow and change if you don't change yourself. And that's like an identity change for people. And I know you help people with this because it's literally, that's what they've been doing for 15 years. And now you're telling them to be somebody different. They're not getting the immediate gratification, the immediate satisfaction of fixing people's stuff and getting that recognition from the customer and feeling good about themselves. And that was the hardest part, I know, for me.
Instead, you've got customers complaining it's too expensive, and you've got, employees saying that they're not getting paid enough and that your policies suck. So you're getting, but, if you do it right, you're taking all that negative and just, wiping away the tears with the money. That's the goal.
Right.
Yeah. And Kelley, I was the technician. I'm not doing it anymore.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Because my thing was at my last place, like, I kept going back into a truck because I was a technician at heart. And I felt like I had to go out and keep running calls. And that's why here, and I love it that my partner Ryan is like, no, like, you don't have a van. You got a Dodge Ram. You don't need to be fixing anything. That's not why you're here. And I love that because I don't want to do that anymore. But I know we're getting towards the end of this, but one thing I want to cover before we close this out is when we talked about how a lot of these people are going towards performance pay, or if people do like straight commission, like how you said, like they need to cover themselves because it's not just, oh, I pay this guy commission and, you know, if he doesn't do shit, then woohoo, we're good. He can work 90 hours a week, but they can still get bit in the ass.
And it doesn't matter how well your guys get compensated. All technicians, all installers, all CSRs, they have to have their time tracked and appropriate overtime paid. So if you're paying them on commission, you still have to track their hours and figure out what that overtime premium is. If you're paying hourly plus other incentives that are based on individual performance, that has to be calculated in to figure out how much overtime you actually owe. Spiffs, commissions, performance pay, task pay, individual performance bonuses, whether you're paying it on monthly or per pay period. All of that needs to be evaluated for how it's earned, the exempt status of the employees involved, and ultimately how many hours they worked and, you know, whatever equation it turns out to be for overtime. And I can make any compensation plan compliant. I can protect anybody. It's just a matter of budgeting, and somebody that's on a pure commission structure, it's going to hurt more financially. Their labor budget's going to spike if they don't make any other changes. But I also help with the math to figure out how you split it out, and blame me for having to split it out so that you're not throwing red flags to the employees. You just fix the problem and move forward. You never admit that you were doing something wrong. But I understand the desire for incentive pay. Fully approve of it. I wish I had incentive pay when I was working for Geek Squad. But it has to be done correctly. And that's where some of the biggest lawsuits end up coming in, because you end up owing back wages, government fines, interest, and then come the civil suits for personal damages. So
let me ask you this then. So somebody like me and Kelley, who we pay hourly wages plus spiffs. So if a guy works, I'm trying to, as far as
which constantly change. The spiffs constantly change. So
you
have to have some historical data.
So as an example, you have a $20 an hour employee, works 45 hours in a week, and earns $100 in spiffs for selling maintenance plans. Okay, simple example. Right now, most contractors, their pay stub would read 40 hours times 20, 5 hours times 30, time and a half of the 20, and then 100 just added on. Done. Well, when you do the math, that overtime actually increases from $30 an hour to $31.11 per hour when you average in that $100 spiff. So that comes up to a $5.55 difference that, if you don't do it, could cost you an additional $1,800 in government fines, plus calculating back wages going back 2 years. And as Kelley just said, it changes every week because their hours are going to be different. The amount of pay is going to be different. The average hourly rate is going to be different. So that's how it can rack up. $1,800 per employee per violation type. So if you have commissions and spiffs, that's two different violations, $3,600 an employee. Add performance bonuses, different things that you pay out on a monthly basis instead of the per pay period basis. Each one of those could be deemed as a separate violation per employee over the last 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, so I don't know when you guys are going to call Ian and hire him, but me and Kelley are fucking on it, because
I'm actually going to give you a credit card before I get off the call with you. So
yeah, because
just to make sure we get
I'm like adding up numbers in the head, and I'm like, God, that's a lot of fines.
Oh, that's a ton of money. Yeah. But there's a lot of other areas that we could use definitely your help in.
I am the cheapest
also.
employee anybody's allowed to hire at my level. You pay me $1,500 for 1 year. You get unlimited access for quick shots. You get 12 project hours that if you burn through them, you can renew early and start that 1 year clock over again. I keep things very simple. I just want to help.
And honestly, Ian, that's dirt cheap. It really is. Like, and I love the fact that you just say it out there. It's not like, oh, well, how much is it? Oh, well, we'll talk off air. Give me a phone call. Like seriously, like you're not hiding it. I mean, you sent us this and it's clear as day. You said it on air. So I love the fact that this is what it is. This is what you get. This is what I do. Like, I like that upfrontness about it. Like it's not bullshit, because, a lot of these like sales things, it's like, oh, well, come to my free class and I'm going to give you a bunch of bullshit. And then at the end, I'm going to try to get you. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I love this, man. And a lot of you guys out there, and between me and Kelley, we know so many business owners out there that are kind of like in our situation, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Guys, this is going to be the best $1,500+ you've ever spent. I mean, seriously, that's why when I saw what Ian did, without even building a relationship with him, just hearing about other people talk about how he's helped them and what he's done, I was like, man, I want to talk to this guy, because I was like, I know I've learned some things in the last couple of years about this, not enough, obviously, but of how important it is. And this is pretty cool, man. You got a really good thing here, man. So, and obviously, if we can help promote you in any way, I know we talked about off air about how, our group and, it's a mixture of techs and owners, but yeah, man, if we can help in any way, I definitely would love to get this information out to as many owners as possible, because I know they all need it, and maybe some of them just don't know it's there and how cheap it actually is to get it done right.
I mean, it's, looking on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or something like that for a certified HR professional, the salaries are definitely up there. And if you're a 10-man shop, you're trying to figure out the balance between technicians and CSRs. You don't have that in the budget for just somebody to be an HR manager. And, you don't even have the work for just an HR manager for a full time. So You hire me. And if you do have a full-time HR manager, I'm an excellent added resource to give that independent perspective, make sure that all the bases are covered. If there's additional research that needs to be done, because companies that have an HR manager, I don't know a single one that doesn't feel completely overwhelmed because too much stuff's been piled on their plate. I can give them peace of mind too. I mean,
yeah, if I was the HR manager, I'm like, yeah, definitely hire Ian. This is great.
Yes,
this guy's going to do my job for me. And
Ian, what the hell should we do here, brother?
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm going to send
HR manager can start taking those 3-day weekends.
Give me 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to call the HR. Hey, where are you? I'm in Miami. I remember I took the weekend off. I'm like, well, damn it. This sucks. Like, yeah, Ian took care of it.
So real quick, one quick question, because this is something that I always struggled to remember, and we talked about it before we started. So I just think it's important that everybody understand this, that if you let somebody go for any reason, or they leave and they say they weren't compatible with your company, and for whatever reason you had to let them go, and they go to somebody else, and then that business owner calls you, and it's a small world. Like, we know these business owners in our regions, they give you a call. Hey, Kelley, what do you know about so-and-so? What am I allowed to say in that, Ian? Like, what can I say? Because can I just be honest and say, yeah, dude, regular drug test,
Nope.
or whatever.
Last thing you want to do is be completely honest about what you think of somebody. What you can tell a prospective employer is verify the dates of employment and what their position was, and then whether or not they're eligible for rehire. The only exception to that is if there is they were let go because of specific legally dangerous, or, if there's domestic abuse, or they attack a customer, or they're caught stealing, or identity theft, any of those things that should have charges either pending or have been filed. You have a duty to put that out there so that you're not setting somebody else up for a giant liability, because it can come rolling back on you. So
I just think this is so wrong. I think why can't we be just honest and say, look, I've gave this guy 10 different chances. I know from all the talk around the shop, the dude's on drugs. Like it's pretty sad that we can't just be honest with each other. I mean, seriously, because you're saying that, like, if there's some legal binding thing that would be a high risk for the employer, how is the guy being hooked on pills not a high risk for that employer? You know what I'm saying? I understand. It's just sad.
Sadly, it's associated with the victim mentality that is crept in through every level of our society. Everybody is more concerned with how something affects them or their feelings rather than
I'm offended.
Rather than any effort being put into what was the intention of what was said or what was done. Because, look, simple example, look at Merry Christmas. Oh, that's offensive. How dare you say Merry Christmas? Why?
How
that's
ridiculous.
The best well-wishing message that I am able to give to you. This is a gift from me to you. It's not offensive. It's a well wish. Just because you believe differently doesn't mean that I'm attacking you. But it's because it's your feelings about the receipt of something is more important now throughout most of society than the intention that it was given. And that's just sad as part of the human condition.
It's like God bless. People say God bless, and it's like, people get, all up in arms, I'm atheist. Well, that's your problem, not mine.
But so basically, in the grand scheme of things, like, this is relatively new, like just in the last, decade or two, couple of decades, or
it's gotten tighter and tighter every year that I've been doing this. That's
too bad.
I just feel like business owners would have a lot less heartache if they could be warned on a shit bag that doesn't work for every company in your area. Or like everybody said they wanted to make like a blacklist for customers, make one
whether
for
or not
employees,
somebody's eligible for rehire is a bit subjective. Would you consider hiring this person again? Yes or no? If the answer is no, because of whatever your personal reasons, you can, even if they're collecting unemployment because you couldn't make a strong enough for-cause termination to prevent benefits, they may still be ineligible for rehire. And you can report that and they can take that as they will. You're just not allowed to go into details unless there is specific, quantifiable legal risk and damages that could be caused if somebody else hires this guy for this type of position.
So if Kelley calls me and says, hey, Gil, I got this guy, I'm trying to hire Jimmy, and we get to all the questions and he says, would you rehire this guy? And I was like, hell no, absolutely not. I kind of emphasized it a little bit. Is that wrong? I'm just asking.
It's a valid question.
It's absolutely valid. And it's a little closer to that gray area. It's in the fuzzy, that type of emphasized response is in the fuzziness area. It would honestly better if you just said, no, he's not eligible for rehire. Hey, you want to go get a beer? Take it, personal, get a little tipsy, and if you happen to share a little bit more, it's a lot less actionable.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, look, see, I got him on video. Look, you don't want to hire this guy.
Yeah.
No, but see, that's why I asked, because, I might think that that's perfectly fine, and I turn around and get sued for it. Oh, hey, I called your last employer and I asked him if he'd hire you again. And he said, no fucking way. You know what I mean? So
but then the question is, how does he find that out?
I have always been careful with this.
How does he find out exactly what you said?
True.
And there's the trust in that small world. You say something thinking that you're, speaking in confidence or off the record, and, it comes back on you, and that just sucks, whether it's coming from a fellow business owner, a competitor, a friend, family member, or employees. It sucks that the trust factors are just so harsh.
And a lot of these softwares now, I mean, like, they record the phone calls. Granted, both parties, at least in my state, both parties have to know they're being recorded, or it's not used. You can't use it in court. But doesn't mean that, I know what you mean. It still means you got to be careful what you say. So that's why I was asking, because something that seems so minor could be a big deal. And a lot of people may not realize that. Especially, I mean, let's be honest, we got a lot of good old boys that own companies that, they might be 5 employees or less. They're not they don't think of themselves as business owners. They just happen to own the company, and they got a couple of guys that work for them, but they need to protect themselves just like the guy who has 20, 30, 40, 50 plus employees.
Doesn't matter how long you've been in business or how big you've gotten. It only takes one incident to make it crumble down if you're not built up on the strong foundation.
No, that's true. And I guess my thing is, when you think of foundation, you don't always think about this part of it, but this is like having a whole nice house and you got no fucking front door. This is the business part of it. And we don't, technicians don't like dealing with the business part of it. This is the boring shit, but it's necessary and it has to be done. And that's the difference between, getting your mind right, becoming an owner. And I don't care if you are running calls every day, all day. If you own the company, we got to change your mindset set things in place. Like, if you want to be a field employee owner, owner operator, great. That's perfectly fine. Do it. Have fun with it. Assign somebody else who's going to handle the accountability. Give somebody else the authority to hold people accountable, including you. And that's a tough line for employers, to swallow, because but that's the price they pay if they want to stay in the field. Some people really like being taxed. They just like the bigger paychecks for being an owner. They're putting in the risk. They can do what they want. I just help find solutions so that you can do it as, with as clear of conscience and peace of mind
safely
as possible.
Yeah. Excellent, man. Everybody needs your service.
Yeah,
100%.
Sure. And if you're a business owner and you listen to all this, and you don't think you need it, I question you being a business owner. I mean, honestly, it's the truth. Unless 100% that you have all of these things in place. And I advise you guys, even if you think you do, call Ian anyway. Be like, hey, this is what I got. Is this good enough? And obviously he'll tell you like, hey, yeah, you're good. Or, I would change this or change that, because that's how important it is. So I hate when we get to this time when we got to start to end this, but I thank you so much for coming on, Ian. I definitely love us to do some more things together to stay in touch for sure. Yeah, I thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you for what you do. And we will be in touch, just like I know Kelley's going to be in touch with you.
Thanks for having me. This has been great. Happy to get information out there. And, I've been a friend of the industry for a long time, and I look forward to continuing to do so.
Awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. This is much needed. And I know that, I know you're going to get some business from this. So I'm happy about that. And, but I'm happy that we found you too, because I know that I need some stuff cleaned up. I know we have some things in place. We have I believe, a valid legal, employee handbook. Don't have a whole lot on safety, that kind of stuff. Of course, we try to throw in some safety meetings. We try to cover that, and we have notes, and I keep those notes when we cover a safety topic. So, but I know it can be a lot better, and I know the accountability and all that stuff could definitely be improved.
24 specific topics that every HVAC company is supposed to do every year to be compliant with OSHA, on top of other company-specific hazards that you may have to cover. I go through it all. I've got it dialed in, very simple to implement.
Oh, well,
awesome.
In case you didn't see the contract we sent over, so anybody we send to you, we only ask for 10%. So we don't ask for much.
Actually, I do have a referral program. I do. So, well.
Oh, awesome. But yeah, I was just kidding. But yeah, but no, we can definitely do that too, because I definitely agree that people are going to be calling you for this because it really is a no-brainer.
And we have, the podcast has a YouTube channel also, but I have just a separate YouTube too. And I'll definitely, after we meet, I'd like to put together a little YouTube video and telling, because it's primarily business owners that watch my channel. So
yeah,
I think it'd be good. And everybody needs this. I mean, let's not kid ourselves
here. The last
here.
thing contractors ever want to deal with in their business is HR. And it's the biggest liability all of you guys have. And, there's always room for improvement, but you can't guard against things that you don't have any idea exist. I can't fix an AC, but I'm a wicked paper pusher these days.
Hey, and that's fine, because you need something in every department, and most of us don't have a person that can do what you do. That's going to look out for the company's best interest and put all those systems in place. So that's for damn sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. All righty. Thank you, sir. You want to hang tight for a little bit? Let's go ahead and start closing this out there, Kel.
I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was definitely insightful, especially the one about the wages and the overtime. That's an eye opener. And, anywhere from that to getting your culture right, to getting the employee handbooks, and just what Ian just said about we've got to cover 24 things. 24. Is that what you said? 24 things every year. Who even knows those 24 things? Like if you do know those, I know Ian does, right? But if you guys are out there and you know those 24 things that you have to cover to be compliant every single year in your business, kudos to you. Absolutely. Like you've got a mentor of some kind that's taught you this stuff. But the point is that Ian's going to help us implement those things into our company, so we help protect ourselves. This is kind of almost like estate planning is how I look at this. It's like really protecting our investment. Our company is our baby. It's our investment. For a lot of us, it's all we have, and we need to protect it. So the $1,500 that he's charging to have him on speed dial for any HR questions, and to actually be able to, use his services to help you build some of the things that you need to implement in your company. I think it's unbelievable. So I'm happy we met him, and I'm happy. I hope you guys take full advantage of it. Just tell him that you heard about him on the HVAC Uncensored podcast. And so anyhow, guys, love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Let's go make money, and then we'll hire Ian so we can keep our money from being sued. So, all right, guys, have a good night, or have a good morning. I guess it's Monday morning when we release. So thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, man, this has been good. Like Kelley said, this stuff is eye-opening, because we all know that it's things that you see and have to happen, but we don't necessarily realize the importance of it. Like how important this is, and why we have to have it. Not like it's, maybe one day we'll get that safety program or that safety handbook. Like, no, you have to have it right now. And this is why you have to have it. And Yeah, and we all need somebody to, especially to these mid-sized companies, to have someone that can take that chunk of responsibility off of you and to help you know that it's okay for that small amount of money. Because guys, $1,500, that is fucking chump change for what he's doing. It really is. Not that I want Ian to raise his services.
Yeah, but please don't raise your services.
But even if you used up all of his fees and you had to pay $4,500 to know that that's taken care of.
You can reach me through
what
Facebook,
full-time HR
Ian
person is going to do all this, and you're going to pay them $4,500 for a year? You're not.
TheBigPictureConsulting.com.
You're not, and most of us can't afford to have that full-time HR person in there. Who maybe is good at one of these things, two of these things, or maybe they don't know all this stuff. So
I know you can hire a lawyer to do like an employee policy handbook, and it might cost $2,500 to $5,000 just for that one thing.
Yeah, and that's not even what they do or specialize in. So it's yeah, guys, this is very, very, very important. So we will get all of actually, I'm gonna unmute you real fast. Give them your goddamn thing. It doesn't. There we go. How can people get in touch with you, Ian? Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. So guys, go check that out. The Big Picture Consulting. Okay. BigPictureConsulting.com. If you guys have any issues, you guys know you can email us and I will get you in touch with Ian if you are in need of these services. But like Kelley said, man, thank you guys as always. Going to start getting back to the groove here now that summer's over. I'm kind of settled in at the new company. Live streams will be starting back up here in the next few weeks. I was going to do the 17th, but I'm going to push it back to the 24th. But I'm going to try to plan something big for that show to kind of come back with a bang. I'm going to move it to Saturday nights at 9 p.m. So it's on a weekend, and it's just going to make it a little bit easier. But yeah, we thank all you guys for the reviews. Keep them coming. Me and Kelley are going to get back to reading those reviews on air. And another thing this summer is I apologize to all of you. I got away from taking the company cell phone, the podcast phone with me. So I wasn't answering a lot of texts, and I see some that go back pretty far. So I apologize to a lot of you that, text the hotline and stuff like that. And, you did not get an answer. I really apologize. Remember, I was in the field doing stuff this summer, working just like a lot of you guys were. But this phone is on. It is being checked on a daily. I'm doing a lot of working from home, so I have this phone there. So remember that the Uncensored text line is 443-422-1000. That's 443-422-1000. And you can text that, text reviews. Hey, I loved an episode, yada, 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 a question. And me and Kelley are going to set aside times on certain podcasts to read all those out loud. All right. So as always, man, be safe out there. Always make it home the same way you left. Okay. We all got somebody to go home to. And guys, do the little things that set yourself apart. I've been saying this since the beginning. Do the little things that set yourself apart. And also, like I always say, when we have different guests, set yourself apart and get Ian services. Cover your ass in your business to make sure it's something that you have taken care of, that peace of mind that the next day, if one of your guys falls off a goddamn ladder, that everything that you have worked so hard for is not going to be snatched up from under you and taken away. All right. So do this. Okay. This is one of the things I'm talking about. Set yourself apart. Whether you're a technician or business owners, there's always steps to be taken to set ourselves apart from the next guy. All right. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Keep listening, and I'll talk with you mofos next week. All right. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.